From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, I'm going to let you decide where we lead off.
Oh, boy.
The Minnesota Twins, who are in a heated battle in the AL Central with Cleveland and Kansas City, or the Minnesota Vikings, who open up a week from Sunday, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, against the New York Giants.
Well, let's start with the Vikings. We've had our fill of Twins over the last few months. Vikings made some interesting headlines this week when they released one of their top draft picks, Lewis Cine. That's a real stumble because wasn't that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's first draft pick as general manager or whatever his title is? So I don't know. I mean, strike one.
Yeah, bad optics because not only did they let Lewis Cine go, and he had injury issues, if you remember, in that rookie year, but they're absorbing his salary.
Right.
And they couldn't get any takers on the open market. So you hate to lose a top pick just a couple years into his career. So that means you whiffed. Now you can make good if all these other guys come through, and Kwesi's done some good things. But I think the draft for him has been hit or miss. Acquiring guys is a little different. TJ Hawkinson, most people would say that was a good move a couple years ago. But, yeah, Lewis Cine gone.
Yeah, and his first draft pick this year is out for the year.
Yeah,
J.J. McCarthy.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, he's 0 for 2 in that respect.
And Jordan Addison, who was chosen last year.
Oh, boy.
Explosive on the field.
and in the vehicle.
And very erratic off the field, yes. So they have to get him fixed. TJ's going to miss 4 games with the injury. Jordan likely to miss 3 or 4 because of dealing with the DWI near LAX. So
and injury, too. Addison's been banged up, too.
You're
so
right.
the timing of his potential suspension will be good for him because he's injured anyway. If it's a good thing at all.
You're looking for the bright light, right? In a dark cave.
I'm trying my best here.
It's a flashlight at best.
So why does the NFL take 2 weeks off in between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season? I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they don't want to, I guess play games on Labor Day weekend.
Why?
But exactly. They play them on Thanksgiving. They play them on Christmas. They play them on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Halloween. No holiday is sacred for the NFL. I mean, it makes no sense. All you do is stretch out your regular season.
Yeah. I mean, so we're pushing this thing already into the middle of February now. It's right around Valentine's Day the last couple of years. And you're starting so darn early. I mean, your training camps begin in July, and then you take a week off, and everybody gets a bye week. It's crazy.
So when the Vikings win that Super Bowl in New Orleans in mid-February, and you're down there covering it, after that you can just drive over to Fort Myers, Florida, and the Twins will have spring training in probably like 1 day.
Yeah. Oh,
the crossover is sickening with all of these sports.
And as you said, they open up in New York. Then they come home to play the 49ers. And then they got the Lions in the mix there.
They got Houston
here. They got to go to Green Bay. The Lions come here. I mean, it's going to be an interesting start for your Vikings. They're already behind the 8 ball with T.J. Hawkinson, as you mentioned, out for the first 4 weeks. Jordan Addison's going to be out. Your number 1 draft pick, J.J. McCarthy, out for the year. You really don't know what you're going to get out of Sam Darnold, do you? Do you have any idea?
No, it's a grab bag. And he's going back to MetLife Stadium where he began his career with the New York Jets.
And he was lustily booed there.
So he's going to get a New York/New Jersey greeting when he trots onto the field turf at MetLife. Who knows? It's going to come down clearly to how well Darnold plays. And then how physical can that O-line be? Can they be road graders and open up holes for Aaron Jones, who is a very good back?
Right.
There's some tread on the tire, though. I mean, some of it's gone. But, and can you give Darnold enough time to find Jay Jets? And when he comes back, T.J. Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. It's an opportunity for Jalen Naylor. I would, it has all the signs of another sputtering start out of the gate like last season.
Yeah.
This first game against the Giants, I know it's one of 17. It's huge.
Yeah. All right. We talked about injuries to the Vikings. Your Minnesota Twins have been susceptible to that same injury bug. Per usual, Byron Buxton has been out for a while. He's on the road back now. I don't know what's going on with Carlos Correa. I'm not sure we're going to see him anytime soon. They may just hold off on him till the middle of September. Say, we want you to feel as good as possible going down the stretch here, particularly if their playoff chances are on the line. I think that the Twins, if you ask me, the Twins have to worry about making the playoffs. Look, the two teams that were in the World Series last year, including the defending world champion Texas Rangers, were both wild card teams. Neither team had a first round bye. They both had to play through that best of 3 series. So just make the playoffs. And I think if you hold on to Carlos and make sure he's as healthy as possible, get him going middle of September if necessary, and for the stretch run, and then, go full force with what you got left.
I give the Minnesota Twins a lot of credit for mixing and matching. And, it's been a patchwork lineup because of the injuries and the way Rocco manages. There's never any consistency to who's going to be at what position and where they're batting in the order. So right now they're still very much in it. 2 years ago was the same case, and then September rolled along and they cratered. And your Guardians overtook them in the AL Central. So is this sustainable for the Minnesota Twins? We're seeing some cracks in the foundation because Carlos Correa, he's their guy, And then I would say it's Royce, Byron Buxton. Pitching-wise, though, especially if you do get in, are you confident that they have the pitching to play October baseball when the games get squeezed? And it's not necessarily a home run derby, right? It tends to be 3-2, 2-1, all that stuff.
It does. And do you feel confident in this bullpen outside of Griffin Jacks and Johan Duran? At the back end, I think they feel pretty good about it. But then you're going to need your starters to get further than, the fourth inning or the second time or the third time through the order. I mean, they got to get you into the sixth inning at least, if not the seventh.
Can I at least give Rocco one tip? Play Royce every day.
Oh, yeah.
And unless he gets injured again, you got to have him, especially with Byron, dinged up, and Carlos Correa, as you said, we don't really know.
Yeah.
That plantar fasciitis it's a beast.
Yeah, no question. All right, we're going to get off the grid a little bit and get onto the cycling. We're going to talk some bicycling next.
That's right. Pedal to the metal here on 10K Takes. Your Carlos Correa tip.
Get away to Lakeville, Minnesota, where your family will have tons of outdoor fun. Come for the nature and stay for the thrills. Bring the bikes, swimsuits, fishing poles, and walking shoes as Lakeville boasts trails, lakes, and beaches. Plan your itinerary at visitlakeville.org today.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. Minnesota scores 10,000 takes, and we're going to talk some cycling now. Recently, it was revealed that the gravel cycling championships, the national championships, are going to come to Minnesota and La Crosse at Minnesota and La Crosse. And right now joining us is the president of the Minnesota Cycling Foundation, or Federation, I should say. It's Jeff Hilligoss. Jeff, tell us about these the gravel cycling championships, what that means. What is gravel cycling? Define it for us.
Yeah, what is gravel cycling? So gravel cycling is, Minnesota has a great kind of proud place in it, because I think that most people involved in the sport would say that some of the early events in the early 2000s were kind of formative, not only in the state, but really nationally and internationally in some ways. They were typically organized as community events that were sort of open to all. Many of them in the early days were free. There's a famous one here in the southeastern part of the state. It was called Almanzo when it first started. and it would attract people from all over the country. Plus, Minnesotans would flock there. They'd have 1,000 people on the start line, and a fellow by the name of Chris Scogan organized those, and it was just a fantastic sort of come as you may kind of event. They would attract everybody from sort of elite racers and pros all the way through to just very casual riders. And it's cycling that takes place on literally gravel roads in the country. So people feel safe in the environment, lower traffic, lower speeds, and the scenery is beautiful, right? And we have a lot of that here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I know, Jeff, the USA Cycling Championships this year, next month to be specific, are in Nebraska. But tell us about La Crescent, Minnesota, La Crosse, Wisconsin, that driftless region, in southeastern Minnesota, southwestern Wisconsin. It's ideal for this kind of event, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, people would call it kind of the best kept secret in all of cycling in the U.S. in some ways, because it's just this fantastic terrain where it's just constantly up and down. There's very little flat terrain, up and down on these farm roads that are beautifully maintained gravel roads. So, for instance, in 100 miles of cycling, you might have 10,000 feet of climbing, right? Which seems hard to imagine here in Minnesota, but the deep valleys, coming in and out of the deep valleys that were created by the what's known as the driftless region. It's just terrific cycling.
What is the experience level and the age groups, if you will, of the cyclists? What is it? What's the range?
Yeah, so in gravel, I think in the gravel cycling championships, it ranges from as young as like 12-year-olds all the way through masters that are in their 70s, right?
Wow.
They may have even an 80-year-old age group, I'm not sure. So from an age group perspective, it really covers the entire spectrum of bike riders. And then from an experience level perspective, it's similar, right? I think that mostly the gravel championships will attract more experienced cyclists, even if they're young. But they'll have 2 classes or 3 classes of elite, so professional, open to professionals and elite level cyclists. Those events are typically over 100 miles. I think this year's events are 130 miles. And then the shorter events are kind of 25-mile range, but still pretty hard because of the climbing.
And can I assume, since you do have professionals or extremely experienced cyclists, that there are cash prizes for winning these things?
Yes. At the national championships, I don't believe there are cash prizes. What's on the line there is a Stars and Stripes jersey,
Okay.
along with gold, silver, and bronze medals typically. And the places go down to, they'll have a podium that might have 5 or 10 spots on it, but people want to be on those top 3 steps. And mostly they want that national championship jersey that they can wear in these kinds of events. But for instance, last weekend there was a event put on also in Nebraska called Gravel Worlds. It's not an official world championship. It's just known as Gravel Worlds, and it's I think it attracted about 1,000 riders, and it had a $40,000 prize purse.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you've been in the Twin Cities now since 1988. Minneapolis is always ranked right up there with Portland, Oregon, when it comes to the top biking areas in the U.S. So why has Minnesota, especially in the land of ice and snow, prioritized biking?
It is it's incredible the amount of time and energy both the community and I think the city planners have put into planning for cycling here. It is a extremely bike friendly city, and it's great that we're always ranked right up there with Portland. But I think especially given the fact that we don't have a tremendous amount of public transportation. Cycling in the city is just the way people get around, and we have the beautiful lakes. People, ride around the lakes. I ride around the lakes. It's just great to have that kind of infrastructure, and I attribute it to just the energy of both the community and our, city planners to have kept that infrastructure up over the years.
I was reading some of the information about these gravel cycling championships, and one of the things talked about the fact you had 22 different categories. What is that? Are those like the elite down to the novice, or does it have to do with the length of these rides, or what exactly are the 22 categories? How is it broken up?
Sure. It's mostly age group and gender based,
Okay.
right? So at the top of the sport, you'll have a men's and women's elite race. You'll have a sort of an all-comers race that's sort of non-binary, single speed, some younger masters, etc. Those are all the longer events, and then as they go down, it's typically in experience level and age. And there's sort of something for everybody at those events. I would say that's a big part of USA Cycling's mission. They're trying to keep the sport accessible to everybody across the age groups and across sort of their position in life. I think some of the more casually oriented events, in the beginning, there was only one class. You showed up and there was 1,000 people on the line, and everybody just started and went. And that was part of what people used to refer to and still do as the spirit of gravel. Sort of a less organized, more of a, it's competitive at the very top end of the sport, but it's social as it goes down.
Yeah.
Will this be any kind of an economic windfall for La Crescent and La Crosse? Revenue-wise, I'm sure family members, friends are going to show up. You got hotels they have to stay in, restaurants they're going to eat in. Will it generate some money for that area?
I think so, and I think that's why they've been doing this, where they award it for 2 years in a row, so that the cities can kind of plan around it. I know that in the case of La Crescent and La Crosse, there's a festival. I believe it's an apple festival in that time frame, so they kind of planned it around that same set of events. Best I can tell, these events are garnering about 500 to 700 competitors for these gravel nationals. So add that to families and friends who are coming with them, and I think that it definitely has a tourist weekend kind of influx for sure.
Is this how the Greg LeMonds of the world got started? Is that fair to say? Or is it potentially some of those mixed in there somewhere?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. It's almost a reverse effect, where what's happening in gravel, both here in the U.S. as well as in Europe, is that there are riders like Greg LeMond, world tour riders. These are riders, professional riders who've ridden in Tours de France and other sort of major world tour professional events, who, as they sort of get a little further in their career, they start to look for other things to do, right? And so you're seeing a bunch of these world tour riders making the trip to the U.S. for some of the premier events in the U.S. on the gravel scene, which, as you can imagine, is sort of, it has its sort of positive and negative effects, right? This is a sport that it was generally thought of as a grassroots sport, and now all of a sudden world tour professionals are showing up and, chasing the prize money.
Most miles you've pedaled in one day on a bike?
Oh boy.
It's about 135.
Wow.
So
From where to where?
That was a ride in Wisconsin. It was an organized ride that you did as teams of 4, and it was 42 degrees and raining also.
Oh,
and
nice and comfortable.
Wow.
It was probably the least amount of fun I've had on a bike as well.
And you remember it well.
Yeah, and I remember it well, right? Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we appreciate you spending some time with us and giving some info on these national gravel championships, the cycling championships, and we wish you well.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for giving it some time today.
Take care, Jeff.
He is Jeff Hilligoss. He is the president of the Minnesota Cycling Federation here on 10,000 Takes. Eric and I will be back with more. We're talking Gophers after this time out. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Well, we talked Vikings football a little earlier. Your Golden Gophers, their season underway this week, opening with the non-conference tilts. First North Carolina, then Nevada, then Rhode Island, and then they get right into the Big 10 or Big 18, if you will.
The bloated Big 10.
Oh, my goodness. 18 teams in the Big 10 this year. The top 2 will go to the Big 10 championship game. Will your Gophers be there? I guess not.
Highly unlikely. Hey, Big 10, let's just add 2 more teams while we're at it. Get to 20, have 4 or 5 team divisions. And then you can create a pathway for programs like Minnesota to at least maybe get to a semifinal matchup and then your Big 10
Oh,
title.
boy, now you want to add another layer of playoffs. Huh?
I'm just thinking about Gopher Nation. You got to give them some hope. And not just Gopher Nation. Illini Nation, Hoosier Nation, on and on it goes.
Wildcat
There's
Nation.
a lot of programs that are going to be buried in the quicksand here with these new teams coming up.
Yeah, and 20 teams. Oh, boy. 18 is bad enough. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I know they got all these tiebreakers and everything. We'll see if they got to go down to the 9th tiebreaker where they're flipping a coin to see who gets in the championship
The
game.
Big 10 is a coast-to-coast conference. It's remarkable.
Yeah. Are you excited at all about the Gophers, I guess?
I think we'll find out a lot against North Carolina if they win that game. Good news is Drake May's in New England now. He's not the Tar Heels quarterback. That's a confidence builder. But if you lose that game, all of a sudden fans will say same old Gophers. And in those first 3 games you laid out, what kind of crowds are you looking at? I would imagine Tar Heels is a good-sized crowd, national TV, Fox Thursday night. But who's all revved up about Rhode Island? Who's all fired up about Nevada?
Nobody.
Now, Iowa's going to fill the building because they all come up I-35
right.
from Iowa. And USC, if you don't fill it up for USC, you may get kicked out of the Big Ten.
Well, that could be.
I mean, come on. That's a pedigree program.
All right. Well, you're a Southern California guy, so your opinion doesn't count.
Wow.
Okay.
It's better than Louisiana Lafayette.
Well, I'm not debating that. That wasn't a conference game, though. Before we go to break, your Lynx have been on a little bit of a roll themselves, and they look like a playoff team that has destiny in their minds. I mean, I think that this is a championship caliber team right now.
I think you're right. They still fly under the radar a bit. It's all about Asia Wilson in Las Vegas. They're going for the 3-peat, but they beat them twice last week.
Right.
Then they knocked off Caitlin Clark in Indiana a few days ago. Angel Reese comes to town on Sunday.
Yeah.
The Chicago Sky. So the Lynx are playing very well. Cheryl Reeve is not only a championship coach, she's a gold medal winning coach, and she knows how to get her gals to play. So if you're a Lynx fan, I say get ready for a run. Could be a long run.
Right. By the way, Nafisha Collier was Western Conference Player of the Week this past week. All right, back with more takes of the day coming up. Stay with us.
Let your adventure begin in Lakeville, Minnesota. We have over 90 places to grab a bite to eat, and we're close to the Mall of America, Valley Fair, and the Minnesota Zoo, plus hotel packages and great rates. Visit Lakeville. We're serious about fun all year round.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Get away to Lakeville, Minnesota, where your family will have tons of outdoor fun. Come for the nature and stay for the thrills. Bring the bikes, swimsuits, fishing poles, and walking shoes as Lakeville boasts trails, lakes, and beaches. Plan your itinerary at visitlakeville.org today.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Goodbye, August. Big shout out to the viewers in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Little Canada. You've got fans everywhere.
That's the rumor anyway.
Yeah. Now, the question is, are you going to tee them off? Takes of the day coming up. Are you, as we go into a holiday weekend, a happy camper? Maybe an angry American, a sarcastic Sam? What is it this week?
Well, you never know.
No, you don't.
Well, I know this much. So I'm watching the Twins game earlier in the week. They're playing the Atlanta Braves, and they're getting pounded. It was 9-1 early. They make a little bit of a run. They get within 9-4. I believe it was the 8th inning. Royce Lewis, who I really like, and I think he is the star of the future for the Minnesota Twins. So this isn't a knock on Royce. This is more a knock on his teammates and, I don't know, handing trophies to everybody for everything and anything they do. So it's 9-4. Bases are loaded in the 8th inning, and they're, again, down by 5, and Royce Lewis is at the plate. Well, Royce hits a fly ball, and somebody tags up and scores. So it's a sac fly. He comes back to the dugout, and he's getting high fives all around like he just went yard with a grand slam to pull him within 1 run. Are you kidding me? He hit a sac fly. Now, I get it if it's a 1-run game or a close game or early in the game, anything. But a sac fly when you're down by 5 and you're getting high fives for that, going through the dugout, just sit down. All the rest of you guys, sit down. Let him go back to his chair. I don't think Royce was happy with hitting a fly out. He might not have been. He shouldn't have been. Anyway, if that's the case, to me, it reminds me of basketball players who shake hands with a guy after every free throw. So you get 2 free throws. The first one, the guy clunks it, and everybody's shaking his hand. Stop it. There's no reason to shake his hand. He missed. Even if he makes it, let him go. He just made it. Let him continue what he's doing. Same thing here. Stop giving high fives for sac flies when your team is down by 5. Are you kidding?
Whoa. Check that mood meter. I smack dab in the middle, a sarcastic Sam.
I might have been angrier than the sarcastic.
Yeah, I saw smoke coming out of
my
ears.
We'll go with sarcastic.
Throwing shade on the Twins.
Well, the mood meter isn't wrong,
trying to come back. No, it senses everything.
Yeah, it does.
So sarcasm and anger. We're part of this week's take of the day. All right, well, my take of the day.
Yes.
A few days ago, I was out in SoCal, went to a couple Dodger games.
Imagine that.
Yeah. The Friday game I saw with my kid Ben, they played Tampa Bay. So we're walking into Dodger Stadium after we battled, gridlock. It's like going to war to get to a Dodger game. The traffic is horrific. When you finally park, you're like, wow, victory. So Shohei at that time had 39 steals, 39 home runs. So I'm thinking, okay, if he gets one of those and becomes, 40 in either category, I'm happy because there's only been 5 guys to go 40-40 in MLB history entering that game. So we get into the ballpark. Shohei gets a steal early on. Right. There's 40. Got it on video. Hey, good job. We saw some history. He didn't do much at the plate until the bottom of the 9th inning. Just straight out of Hollywood, which is up the road. 2 outs, bases juiced. Walk-off, grand slam.
Can't make it up.
40-40 club. And the normally laid-back LA fans explode in ecstasy. It was an epic moment, at least for me. And it was pretty cool. He got a Gatorade dousing. I think he was interviewed after the game in 3 languages. It was crazy. Now, there's where you give the high five.
Absolutely. Give him the high five for that. He didn't hit a sac fly.
No, this one won the game. So on that note, let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to David Weld, Paul Langfellow, Rocky, Jeff Hilligoss. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.